Hello friends, welcome to Spellbinders Small Die of the Month featuring the new Colorwheel Cardstock collection. And what better way to step into spring than with the Die of the Month Step into Spring. This is such an adorable set. Just look at those gorgeous color wheel colors, and we'll be talking about how to organize them with the Color Swatch Petal die set. In the last video, I talked about using the Color Swatch Wheel and how my primary focus for that organizational tool is to use it to select color combinations for projects. The Color Swatch Petal produces a single large swatch. This three-piece die set is made up of the background, the swatching die, and also a reinforcer which I'm placing at the top of the background right now. Once all the reinforcers are in place, then it is easy to position the swatch. Although it does have a score line at the bottom of the background piece, it is much easier to just push the swatch up against the reinforcer and it will line up perfectly. The background of the tag is designed so that you can stamp the name of each of the colors of cardstock right below the swatch. However, I chose black cardstock, so I'm stamping directly on the swatch. I knew that in my craft room that white is not necessarily the best choice, as it will definitely not look so pristine over time. So why have two different swatching tools? I'll be using the Color Swatch Wheel as a means to easily select colors that go together for a project, rather than having to shuffle through sheets of cardstock. The Color Swatch Petal I'm going to use as a means of identification. I organize my cardstock by color into mesh zipper pouch bags. For the bags that I have, the toggle that is at the end of the zipper pull opens up. I can then feed the petal swatch through the string and then place the string back into the toggle and snap it shut. Currently, I have sticky labels that I place on that are constantly falling off, so this will definitely be an upgrade. And then in terms of selecting the cardstock for this project, using the Color Swatch Wheel made that extremely easy. So I began with all of my die cutting, and I have 5 colors that I've chosen for the flowers. For the larger flowers, there are 3 different sets of dies. I cut each of these 3 flowers out of the 5 different cardstocks for a total of 15 of the large flowers. Each of these flowers have double centers which have been cut from Tuscany cardstock. Larger centers for the 2 smaller flowers have score marks to indicate where to place the smaller center. This die set also includes 2 stems that have multiple flowers on them. To help these little flowers really stand out, they have been cut from the richest of the 5 flower colors, violet and mulberry. The 5 sets of the larger flowers were created with violet, lilac, lavender, mulberry, and orchid. The stems and leaves were cut from 2 different colors of cardstock, peridot and rainforest. Now to create the shoes that are going to be fitted on a foot and leg, the main part of the shoe has 2 die cuts. I've cut the sole from black cardstock and the shoe from violet. The violet die cut will overlap the black one quite a bit. The black sole does have a score line that indicates where the shoe will be aligned on it. The accessories for the shoes include a buckle and bow, which I have die cut from gold glitter cardstock. And to create the pair of shoes, everything will be die cut 2 times. And then the shoe will be adhered to the foot, which again does have score lines to indicate how it is to be positioned on it. And then the foot is adhered to the leg, and again there is a score line to line them up. And just when I was reaching for the cuff of the socks with its little lacing edging, I realized that I should have die cut the foot portion out of white cardstock, I was able to carefully remove the shoe and then replace the foot with one that was cut from white cardstock. Large frame die and its coordinating rectangular die from the Stitching Die of the Month were used to die cut peridot cardstock. The rectangular panel was adhered to white foam. Foam strips were placed on the backs of the legs, of which I have one crisscrossing the other. They were then adhered to the foam-backed panel and the excess portion of the legs trimmed off. The sentiment is from the Vivid Script Sentiment die set. These die cuts are quite fine, and I'm dotting on Tombow adhesive, which I'm going to set aside and let it dry until it's in its tacky state, and then there will be no worries about the adhesive smearing on the gold foil. And while it's drying, I'll go ahead and adhere my panel that was cut with the frame die from the Stitching Die of the Month onto an A2 size card base. And then I can adhere the foam backed panel with the cute shoes sitting right on top of it. So how about stepping into spring by being surrounded by gorgeous flowers? I'm going to take this little pile of flowers and leaves and tuck them in and around these crisscross legs standing in the middle of a garden. The flowers that are positioned below the shoes will be lined up to the edge of the rectangular panel. Some of the stems will be trimmed off. If those stems have leaves, I'll trim those off and use them separately. And I'll just keep building up those flowers all the way around the shoes and the legs, making sure that I distribute the color somewhat evenly, and as I adhere them, I'm only applying adhesive to the stems. And before I finish up with the flowers, my sentiments are now dry, so I'm going to position those die cuts so that they rest across the tops of the feet. And then I'll continue to fill in with all of my flowers and leaves. I had a couple of larger flowers left at the end. I've cut the stems right off to help fill out the base of the panel. And then I'll just finish up with a few of those smaller flowers in the corner. There's a little bit of shine in this card with the gold accessories and sentiment, but I wanted a bit more, so I'm going to add in some pretty little dewdrops with some clear crystals. And that wraps up Spellbinders Small Die of the Month Step into Spring, featuring the new Colorwheel Cardstock collection and the organizational tool Color Swatch Petal. Thank you so much for joining me, and as always, I appreciate your visit.